how introverts respond to situations and how extroverts respond, how to appeal to an audience that does not read heavy literature, the consequences of the lifestyle that we are living. He has an incredible ability to change one's perception. We all will need this book at some point of time or the other. Hello and welcome to this brief encounter with books. In this video, I shall be recommending five non-fiction for non-readers. We start with the first one, A Cook's Store by Anthony Bourdain. This book is by a chef. He's a chef from New York. He was, sadly, he's no more now. He hailed from France, and in this particular book, he's talking about all the places that he's visited, the countries and continents, and the very one specific dish that he traveled to these countries to have. For instance, in Italy, he went to have pasta. Then he's been to Russia. He's been to a Middle Eastern country as well, which I cannot remember right now, where he spent a night in the desert under the stars and had an entire goat. By an entire goat, I mean all the parts of the goat. He's a very wonderful writer in that he knows how to combine, how to fuse, how to merge the writing about food with culture and how to appeal to an audience that does not read heavy literature. He is an incredible writer because he knows how to create an impact. If you like food, if you like adventure, this book is definitely for you. And if you love to travel, then you are going to love Anthony Bourdain. Moving on to the next one. My next recommendation is in the completely opposite direction. Silence by a Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. This book deals with something that all of us struggle with today. And if you are someone who would like a bit of silence every now and then, who does not mind a little bit of silence every now and then, but we live a lifestyle and we live in a place where we can't afford that, we can't have that, then this book is for you. It's going to give you that sense of quiet and peace just by reading it. Of course, it's written by a Buddhist monk, so what else can you expect? You can see it in the way that it's printed. It's spaced more than any other books, and the writing is not very small. The margins of the pages are quite wide, so there's not much to read. You don't have to read a lot to understand what is in it or to get through the book, but it is incredibly impactful and it gives you a sense of establishment, a sense of rootedness in the present. You may not finish the book in the first read itself, but this is a book that everybody would be useful for everybody to have close to them, because we all will need this book at some point of time or the other. Remember it? Silence by Thich Nhat Hanh. Next on the list, we have Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. If I'm not mistaken, this poet is from either Germany or Poland. This was exchanged before the First World War, in the beginning of the 20th century. And these are letters that this poet wrote to Franz Xavier Capus, who's another poet, another writer, and Franz Xavier Capus first published these. These are only the letters that Rainer Maria Rilke wrote back to Franz Xavier Capus. What these letters contain is advice. Now, if I have to condense it, then it's advice on how to become a poet and how to become a writer. But he doesn't limit himself to that. It's advice on life, advice on the different trajectories of life, on grief, on love, on sex even, and most importantly, on solitude. Solitude is an idea that seems very strange to us and foreign to us because it's not available to us. Even if we live alone, we are surrounded by noise. We are surrounded by a sense of cohabitation. We're not really alone. And this is a very short book that makes us realize what solitude really is. We move on to When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate. This book looks like it's heavily based on medicine, which it is, but Dr. Gabor Mate writes books in a manner that can be understood by people who have no background in medicine, because he writes so that people can better understand their bodies and minds and the connection between the body and the mind, which is what this book is about specifically. When the body says no, what happens? When we put our body, our mind through chronic stress, how does the body respond to it? What are the implications that are faced by the physical body when the mind goes through chronic stress, which is stress, constant stress, prolonged over a period of time? What does that do to the body? That's only one instance of and one example of what is in this book. I recommend this book to non-readers because it carries a lot of information on the consequences of the lifestyle that we are living and how we can help our physical body and our mental state of mind, how we can adapt, how we can adjust little things in our lifestyle that can make our lives more enriching. Now, I ask your permission to read just a little snippet of what is behind the book. Can a person literally die of loneliness? Is there a connection between the ability to express emotions and Alzheimer's disease? Is there such a thing as a cancer personality? This is the kind of stuff that makes us more knowing, that gives us more information about our mind and about our body, even though we aren't in the field of medicine. We don't all need to be doctors, and we don't need to read heavy medical books to understand how our mind and body is working. We need more writers like Dr. Gabor Mate to distill heavy medicine jargon into language that we can understand and we can use to make our own lives better. My final recommendation on non-fiction for today is this book, Quiet, by Susan Cain. There's quiet written on it. I don't know if you can see it. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or an ambivert, this book will help you understand yourself better. It will help us understand how these distinctions between introverts and extroverts are made. It's a very valuable book because it has the potential to improve our relationships if we let it. It shows us, it reveals to us how we respond to situations, and it explains to us why we respond to situations the way we do. Why is there such a stark difference between how introverts respond to situations and how extroverts respond to situations? It reveals to us the different approaches that these two categories have towards life in general. And it takes examples from studies done at Harvard Business School. It takes examples from the business world and why we see only a certain category of people in a very specific field. One of the important lessons that I learned from this book, which I found very intriguing, was that introversion is not an aversion to people. It's actually an above average sensitivity towards stimulation. And this stimulation can come in the form of a whole crowd of people or a single television blaring loudly. This book, like Dr. Gabor Mate's work, is something that's going to help us understand ourselves better. It's going to help us understand what we need, and it's going to help us to articulate to other people what we need and why we need it. Which is why I said it has the potential to change our relationships and improve our relationships if we let it. That brings me to the end of this brief encounter with books. And with that, we conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe if it was helpful, and please let me know once you have read these how you felt about them, or if you have read these, how was your experience? See you next time.